Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Everyday a Holiday. I am so excited because I'm not alone and I am here with one of the girls that I admire the most. I think that more than of the things that she has done, because she has done many things in her short age, and you guys are going to get to know her a little bit. More than what she has done is who she is the person that she is on the inside that completely matches what she has done on the outside. And I want to tell you guys a little bit about her. So she is Laura Estefania Munoz, and I love her second name because Stephanie, it's my name, but also means crown one. And I believe that she has been crowned with so many talents and with the biggest heart. So she is a community organizer. She's a survivor. She's an advocate for immigrant rights and gender justice. She was born and raised in Colombia, and she came to Miami in 2006, and she lived without documents for a long time, almost for a decade. And she graduated from George Washington University, and she was she was an immigrant. Well, we are immigrants, really. But she was able to graduate from Washington University in 2016, and she works with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. And let me tell you that I've known Laura for a long time, since you were maybe 14. And I'm gonna unpin myself so we can see you. So
Perfect.
happy to have you with us, Laura.
Thank
Like,
you so much for having me. I will also I'm gonna add my plug that that Stephanie has been my mentor since I was a very young girl, and really I am so honored. And I said this earlier to her, but I'm so honored to be of her legacy of leaders, of moral and faith leaders, and I'm just so thankful to be in this space with her. So thank you for having me and
to me,
trusting me.
it's truly an honor. It's an honor. I mean, I've known you since you were maybe 13 or 14.
13. Okay. I met you when I was 13 years old at the small church, okay, for Eagle Kids training. I remember that you trained me, and I was so happy in that first training, so I'll never forget it.
It's incredible. It's incredible because at 13 years old, I mean, truly, not a lot of people know what they want to do with their lives. Not a lot of people are willing to, they cross paths and in different situations and in different relationships and even situations. And that kind of helps to be
Yeah.
molded into something and kind of have an idea of what they want to do. But I feel like since you were very young, you knew that you wanted to do something. And I always remember, and this is something that comes out in conversations when I talk about you, and is oh, she's a world changer. She is a leader. She is someone that has the biggest heart. She truly cares about
Wow.
people. And I
I
think that has
learned
been,
it.
yeah. No, but I honestly think that that has been something that you have carried since you were young. But your life hasn't been perfect, and your journey hasn't been perfect. We have gone through many stages in your life where I have been able to walk, and I was able to walk in many of those stages, but there has been a lot of pain in your life. But it's crazy how you have allowed God, but also there is this tenacity inside of you. And there is this, I always, when I see you, I see, we see Laura, and you guys can see her, and she has this beautiful face, and if you meet her, she's like so kind. But I feel like inside of her, she's a lioness. Like, she is not just a little puppy. No, she's a
Oh my
big, big,
God.
big,
I
stronger
am
person.
welcoming all these words of appreciation. I don't know how to handle it, so I'm
Well,
taking it all in.
take it all in, because that's how I see you. I see you with so much power inside of you, and I love that because actually, then you left to go to the university, and just it's incredible. Just all the I can even remember, like, the praying for the university, praying to see where you were gonna go, and then you got to go to that university and then work and lived in Washington, and all these things that you did. And I remember when you came back. How
Yeah.
old were you when you came back after graduating?
So after I graduated, I spent some time and I worked in DC in technology for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I worked in an international organization, and it was such a wonderful experience. But I knew that my heart was here with my people. My heart was, organizing and building change from the bottom up. That's where I believe with all my heart that that's how we can truly affect change. And so that was a year after graduating. So it was a year after it was 2017. So I think I was 24 because I'm 26 now. Yeah,
So you were 24 years
I
old.
was 24. Yeah, I was
And,
24.
to anyone that's watching, she was just 24 years old. I remember I went to see you um, at your little office. I remember she had an office, guys, in
See,
her apartment. And
yeah.
she had a desk and she had, she literally had a real office in,
It's so
in,
true.
in her apartment. And I remember she told me, I am opening an organization. This
Yeah.
is the name. These are the business cards. And I mean, I had no doubt that this was going to be a success, more because of, because it's not a business, it's an organization.
It's
But
a mission.
to be honest, more than what you can have, or the name, and the I am, I'm in charge of this organization. I had no doubt that it was going to be successful because of what it stands for. And that's actually what we're going to talk about today. And I think that you are one of the people that carried empathy with you. For many years I've known you, and that has been something that has always been with you. You are always willing to you care for people, but you're always willing to help and give the extra mile in every sense of the word, not just with words, but also physically, financially. Like, you have always been that kind of person who is empathetic, who doesn't see any color, who doesn't see any culture, who doesn't see any language, who doesn't see religion, and you just go beyond and see the person. So I want Laura for us to be able to talk, and I think that you are the perfect person for us to be able to talk about empathy, which, with everything that has been going on, I think it's part of our responsibility. I feel like Everyday Holiday has a responsibility to be able to talk about this and truly understand what it means. Because being empathetic, it's not being sympathetic. Now, to have
Mm-hmm.
empathy doesn't mean that you need to go and help everybody. Empathy has to do with you. So I want you to take it over, and let's talk a little bit about empathy.
Yes. Well, again, I'm gonna stop and take and process all of that because for I need everybody to know how much I honor this woman, and hearing these words from her just means the world to me. So I'm gonna have to process this tonight before I go to sleep.
Journaling, journaling.
I'm gonna be journaling. I'm gonna be like crying because that's me. But yeah, in terms of empathy, and thank you so much for opening this space. And I do think that talking about empathy is so important in talking about and understanding what it truly means, right? Because empathy is what, and I think we talked about it before as well, is the lifestyle, right? It is a worldview, right? And it is something, it's a muscle that we all, I believe, are born with, that we are bestowed with, that we are created with, right? Um, it's something that we have within our hearts that lets us know. Um, and to me, empathy and compassion is it's liberation and it's joy. And so the reason why I say this is because
Okay.
I, oh, Oh, and the reason why I say this is because I remember I was one day with a friend of mine, and she has a child, right? So we were going on the subway, and the young boy sees that somebody's asking for money because they don't have food, right? And they live in the streets, and so the little boy says, Mom, what's going on? Why does this person, why don't they have? Why are they asking for money? What happens? And so the mom just explained, oh, what happens is that they don't have money, and because of that they have to live in the streets, and sometimes they don't have food. And this boy like started crying, okay, like a full blown crying and being like, what do you mean, mom? Like, I don't like that this is not okay. Why don't they have food, right? And that moment for me was so transformational, because if we see children in moments of pain, when they
Yeah.
witness everything that is not what we know is not right, their reaction, they are so in tune with their body, with their spirit, that
Yes.
they know right away that this is not right, right? I remember when I was in the 7th grade and I first heard about like climate change, and
Yeah.
or when I was in the 7th grade and they told me about the kids in Darfur. I remember I told my whole school we needed to recycle. I started making pamphlets, right? But I think that at some point, because there's so much pain in the world, we are taught and we learn to desensitize our bodies,
Yes.
right? We learn that, we have to survive. We have to survive. We have to live through our day to day. So I can't pay attention to this. And I think out of that comes a culture of like, I need to survive. We have of what I think and I like to call a survival and a scarcity mindset, right? Where it's like, I
Yeah.
need to survive. I need to know what's going to happen with my life. And because, and especially for many folks that have had to be in those moments of survival, our culture sometimes grew out of that, right? Having to survive. And sometimes we think that to survive, there's only so many resources. We might have to only think of ourselves
Yes.
and not see other people, right? And so that's, I think, something that we begin to learn as a form of survival. But to me, compassion, empathy is to change our mindset from a mindset of survival to a mindset of thriving, from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance. Because once we begin to realize that, for example, with climate change, right, like we are all connected. I can protect the planet and I could protect my little portion of the planet, but if we don't all work together,
Right.
it's not gonna work.
And a lot of
Right?
people think that because if you make the change, or if you make the changes, it's just a little bit, so I'm just gonna live life and who cares and whatever, because whatever I'm doing is truly not gonna make a change. And that's also the reason why we're not able to be empathetic, because we say, well, who's watching me? For me to feed one person, it's not gonna make any changes.
Exactly.
So
And so that's,
no, go.
and I even think this moment exemplifies that perfectly. Even before, we're having this conversation about race, but before that we were dealing with a global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And to survive a global pandemic, you can be, I mean, you could, I guess, stay on your own, right? But the public health, for it to work, we all have to work together, right? And that's why I believe that empathy and compassion, right? It's not charity, it's solidarity. And it's
Right.
understanding that we're only free until we're all free, right? It's not about, I am doing this for you, I am doing this for me, because my freedom, my justice, when I know that you are hurting, when I see you not being able to eat, deep in my heart, even if I'm not attuned to it, my body, my spirit is telling me that something is wrong and I am
Yeah.
hurting, right? Both those who have and those who don't have are hurt by injustice, right? We're all hurt with it because it corrupts our spirits, or of course because we don't have, right? So I think that once we begin to understand that we're all interconnected, that
Yeah.
our survival is dependent on each other's, then we start to see that compassion is less of duty and it's more of a joy, it's more of a way to become the most beautiful, kind, real version of ourselves, and to do that in a way that helps everyone, right? Without guilt, so that those who have don't have to carry the guilt of privilege, and
Yeah.
the ones who don't have to carry the burden of scarcity. And so to me, that's what compassion is, right? It's a form of joy, of liberty for me,
Yeah.
right?
That's incredible. And to be honest, I love that you gave the example of the kid who got so upset, and it was like, what do you mean they don't have something to eat? And I think, and you said something powerful, we are all born with
Yeah.
empathy inside of us, and that's the reality, that kids they don't stay just at looking at the need, but they actually want to do something. And it's so crazy because a lot of the kids, they don't have the means, they don't have a car to drive and make a change, they don't even have a cell phone sometimes, but they are choosing to do something. They are, this is the thing, they are able to see beyond themselves. And a lot of times, us as adults, we were all kids, which means that we have empathy inside of us.
We do.
But then we grew up. And it's so easy just because of the everyday and the I have my own goals, I have my own pain, I have my own situations, I have my own work, I have my own stuff that we forget and we don't see. But I feel like kids, they are able to enjoy their lives, live their today, and because they're living their today, if they go to a store, they're just not going directly to the store to get what they need. They are in the moment, which means that they, as they go through the store, they see the need. They see the people that are outside maybe asking for food. They see because they're able to be in the present. And I truly believe that that is what Everyday a Holiday wants to be able to inspire you to. It's just to be able to be present. Because when you are present, you are able to see through.
Oh,
It's not, it's not just the I have to go and run and do this. Is, can I wait? Can I leave my goals for 1 second? Can I leave my dreams on the side? It doesn't mean that you're not going to dream and make them happen. What I'm trying to say is that there is other people's dreams that are being crushed, and maybe you are the answer to those dreams. And I want to ask you something, because you explained perfectly what empathy and compassion is. But my question is, if we are all born with empathy inside of us, and then we grow, which pain comes, and Stephanie, we had a conversation. It has been Stephanie's all the way. Stephanie Casilimas, I interviewed her first, and now Laura Estefania.
Estefania.
It's all Stephanie's. But she was talking about how pain comes, and pain has the power to just destroy your future, and kind of freezes you from dreaming again. And that's why we all need healing. We all need the process of healing. Now, my question to you is, how can you be compassionate while growing and healing personally? Because we all have been hurt. Like, how can you choose to keep on being empathetic while
Yeah,
you are growing and healing from your own pain, and you also needing people to be empathetic with you?
exact. I think that that is the question that we are trying to figure out. I think this
Yes.
whole century, like that is the question that we are going to try to figure out. How do we create, you know, a world where that could be a reality, where we can heal and heal others? And I think that's the world that I want to live in. But
Yeah.
on a more like
And that
now,
we're working for.
and that I'm working for,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I think when it comes to pain, and when it comes to healing, and when it comes to being empathetic and compassionate at the same time, for me, and I will speak to my journey so that I can make the point that I want to make, which is I see that for many of those that are in what you would call like social justice movements, right?
Yeah.
Social justice movements become a place where we can find healing by fighting for the things that we were hurt by sometimes, right? And so I see that this is one way that by I had an experience where, as an adult, thinking that, I'm an adult, I'm so
You know better.
empowered, I'm a woman, I know better, like I'm so cautious, and, I know everything I need to do. And somehow at one point in my life, as this empowered, powerful woman, I ended up being in a situation where I didn't have consent, and something was done to me that was very traumatic, right? And I think from that place, I felt so much pain. I felt so much pain that it was hard to continue functioning, right?
Yeah.
And so for many of us, trying to make sense of it, and trying to figure out how we heal, and through the process of healing, we become healers, right? Because once you start healing yourself, you know, what has happened to you, it is never your fault, right? That
Yeah.
whether that be, you know, sexual violence, or whether that be poverty, or whether that be being born in a place where there's no opportunity, right, and having to be an immigrant. Whatever has happened to you, is it's never, and that trauma is never your responsibility.
Right. You
But
didn't
I
answer.
see you really didn't ask for it. But one of the key things is that the healing is always your responsibility,
It's
right?
so good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so even though we can't choose many of these things, we are responsible for our own healing, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's where that that can look like so many things. And so for me, being able to continue being empathetic is something that I'm always struggling with, because I feel so much and I also have to take care of myself. But for me, being understanding that the process of me healing helps me continue to help others,
Yeah.
understanding that by healing myself and being a self-healer, right, I can then go on and take that to others, right? And understanding that my healing, like you said, I can't help others until I am healed. And by not healing myself, you know, healed people heal people, and hurt people hurt people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the moment I'm able and I'm working on healing myself, that is an investment in me and in my community, right?
So
So
good.
this
Yeah.
thinking, we're always thinking that if I'm doing it for me, it's because I'm selfish.
Right.
And
Right.
it's not. When I do it for me, I am investing in my family. I'm investing in my relationships.
The
I'm
influence that you
investing
have.
in everyone that I love. And so that is why, to me, although these are two separate things, they're also together, because my healing is tied to the healing of everyone that I love. And that's why I have to prioritize it, so that I can continue to be the empathetic, kind, loving person that I want to be.
Yeah.
And so with that said, I also think, and I wrote here in my notes,
Love it.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries. I work with a lot of survivors, and I work with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. I run the hotline. So I'm listening
Mm.
constantly to very painful, hard situations. And if I don't create a level of boundaries, you know, burnout is a real thing.
Yeah.
And you do have to create those boundaries. And understanding as well, another principle for me is accepting that one of my internal policies is called a no heroes. And the reason why I call it that is because, you know, I believe that we all, like, the journey of healing is in the power of every human being, right?
Yeah.
And I am not going to be, you know, the hero for the whole world.
Yeah. That's God's
But
job.
exactly, that's God's job, and that's never going to be my job.
Yeah.
But I believe that together we can be each other's heroes, that by that interconnectedness and being able to be there for each other, and understanding that yes, there's things out of my control that I'm never going to be able to control, that I cannot just, you know, snap, you know, like, I am not God. God
Yeah.
is God, not me. And understanding that you know, that's a principle for me, because there are times where I do feel so helpless, and that's something that I had to deal with. So that's something that, you know, it takes time, but we also have to learn that I am, as much as I would like for somebody in a harmful relationship to exit that relationship, that's I'm not their hero. You know, they are their own hero, and they could do it. They have the agency to do it whenever it is that they are ready to do that. So that's been also a huge lesson for me doing this work and learning as I crushed my heart over and over.
But it's incredible because you said something is that it gives you joy. So more than a job, in reality, it's your lifestyle. Like it has become your lifestyle. My question, Laura, coming from this, you said hurt people. And I feel like there is so much hurt right now with everything that's happening. Yes, I feel like people are finally opening their eyes, to see the reality and the pain that our own people, our own community are going through, but also the people that maybe we didn't consider our community because we're in this mindset of I suffer too, so look at me and forget about everybody else. But I feel like for the very first time, because of the news, because of a cell phone, because of a video, I feel like people are finally seeing, but also what I've been able to see is that there is a lot of pain being reflected. There is a lot of unresolved pain
Yep.
that has been there for years. And again, hurt people. So for all of those that are watching today, that you have inside of you, you know, we all have this empathy. And maybe, I mean, if you watch that video, I know, and I'm talking about George Floyd, I know it hurt. It had to hurt. But now, what can we do? And I'm asking you because you are not just someone who's empathetic, but I feel like, and I know so, that you are someone who works in that area. You know what it is to make a movement and to truly work for the community. What can we do? Like, what do you think needs to be done internally and also as a community?
Whew, that's a loaded question, but I'm so glad you asked, because I think that there's something that I've been learning, and I will say that I think I'm always learning, and one of my biggest lessons in this season of my life has also been um, learning to understand how I am a part of the problem, which
Yeah.
also makes me part of the solution, right?
Yes.
And understanding how I can change my views about things when I learn new information,
Yeah.
and how understanding how being honest with myself, and one of the words is regenerative conflict, right? And so not punitive conflict is so important. And the difference between these two is that punitive conflict might just be about, I'm hurt, so I'm gonna hurt you. I'm hurt, so I want you to also feel hurt. And sometimes, right, I'm not to tell someone, what type of hurt they need to feel and what type of conflict they need to feel in this moment, particularly. Absolutely, I understand that a lot of people are in a lot of pain, and I honor that, however they might need to feel it. But I do see that for us to see a new day, I think that there is a great deal of regenerative conflict that is needed. And that is the conflict that means hard conversations, that means telling somebody things that they might not want to hear, right? And hearing things that you don't want to hear, and being willing to sit with that uncomfort. Because a lot of the conversation, we know that a lot of the conversation didn't happen until it escalated so much, right? And so it comes about, how do we begin to listen more so it doesn't have to escalate? How do we begin to listen more so that we're able to sit with that regenerative conflict, and we come up with new ways of dealing, right? Like, I know that within my heart, I struggle every single day to think about how I am uplifting a system that will hurt Black people. Because when the first folks went into Africa and took slaves and brought them into this country as property, we began to see Black people as less than human.
Exactly.
And that happened for hundreds of years, right? Not just a decade, not 200 of years. And so there's a part of us, right, that within the system, it's very difficult for us to just wake up one day and be like, oh yeah, I mean, I don't see anything anymore, like everything is fine.
And it's
I
something
think
that has been in our minds. Like, we were born with this truth. 400 years ago, it wasn't a truth. But think about it. Like, it's been generations and generations that they need to renew. We all need to renew our mind, unlearn what we have learned.
exactly. And that is really, really hard work.
Yeah.
And I it's hard work, but as I mentioned, I think it is also, I am growing. And this is not about, let's say, we were talking about charity, like I am only doing this because this is how I get to feel good about myself, or this is how I get to save other people. But I think that by me thinking this, right, it corrupts my spirit, and it affects my life. It affects every part of me. And so I am committed to continue to unlearn this, because I believe that when we truly get to that moment when I don't have to have this kind of like deep-rooted anti-Blackness, right, within me, that I can't always notice, maybe sometimes it might be subconscious, that is a struggle I'm going to probably live with for the rest of my life, right? And that is okay. That it's okay. Because as human beings, we get to learn, right? Like as human beings, we get to seek wisdom every day, and we get to continue learning. And it's a commitment to consciousness. And I say commitment because sometimes finding that consciousness could be, it's a responsibility, it's a commitment, and it's something that it's not, one people against another people. Yeah. It is all of us against a system that has taken the humanity out of people. It's all of us against this way of thinking. And that is key, because that is that regenerative conflict that helps us not just hurt each other or say it's you against me. It's all of us against the system that made us feel like other people we're not as human as us, and that infiltrating everything from beauty standards, right, to what is seen as the standard, or to what is seen and what life is valued. So that is a lot. And you know what, maybe even now I could be mistaken. Maybe, I listened to all of the Black leaders organizing in my community, and I listened to their leadership and where they want me to show up. And if they tell me that I'm wrong, I'm going to listen to them. And I'm going to keep on growing. And in the same way, right, like I take that to every part of my life. But in this particular moment, I am just so committed to do everything in my power to build a world where people don't have to die because of the color of their skin. Absolutely. And it's going to take years. It's going to take centuries. Yeah. But if all of us commit to that, to that journey, that is definitely the first step.
That's so good. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I got to a point where I felt so frustrated with this whole situation, because the posting, the reposting, the doing, the conversations, and I honestly, I made a decision personally, and I said, you know what, God, I want you to speak to me directly. I want for you to be able to instruct me. What is it that you want me to do? And God was so clear with, first, check your heart, and number two, you have the power. It's been 400 years that this mindset has been installed in people's minds, but you have the power. You have 2 kids that you have the power to teach them something completely different, and they are gonna have kids, and their kids are gonna have kids, and guess what? Your lineage, your last name will know a different world. Why? Because you are choosing to teach them, not just out of words, but with your actions and the way that you think. You are reteaching them something completely different and a different way of seeing the world. And I think that comes with also the empathy and what you were saying, the self-responsibility of, I need to heal myself. We can't just focus into trying to heal everybody and to help everybody and to change everybody's minds, because let's be real, it is impossible. But it is not impossible for us to find healing, for us to find restoration, and for us to be an influence to our own families. And I think that's what we got to commit to.
Absolutely.
To truly see a change.
Absolutely. I think that is the future that we can hope on, right? That we can all do our part, that there is already so much that has been paved for us, right? Just being able to be in a place where we can have this conversation speaks to, the sacrifices of years of organizers and leaders, right? Starting with, the death of somebody like Dr. King, who is, still like one of my biggest influences, and many others that did not get that the same level of recognition, but made huge sacrifices, and we get to stand on their shoulders. But the baton is being passed to us, like listen to the Black leaders of your time, look at the
Exactly.
injustices happening, and do the work. All right, like
Exactly.
listen 1,000 times and do the work, and I think that's when we really start, doing that regenerative conflict that leads us to a true healing.
Yeah.
So here's hoping.
And a lot of religious people, I'm gonna say it that way. I've heard a lot of things, but I've heard also, like you just gotta pray. Even with healing, with pain, like being hurt, and healing and freedom, you just gotta pray. You gotta pray to God. And I love what Mother Teresa said. She said, I used to believe that prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us, and we
Mhm.
change things. And
Okay.
like,
Yes.
right? I was
Yes.
like, Mother Teresa, I love you. And
Yes.
it's incredible because a lot of people and a lot of Christians are putting themselves behind this situation because of fear, because of lack of knowledge, because of lack of information, and we're putting ourselves behind the wall saying we just gotta pray. Well, I'm praying, and it's so real what she says. Yeah, prayer has the power to change people, and when you change, then you have the power to then change things. So I think that we need to
And
be able to open up to God, and the God that has the power, because a lot of people also are mad at God. Is that God hasn't done anything? No, we haven't done anything. So we have the responsibility to take it to prayer so God can change our hearts, and then we can make those changes.
exactly, and I think a big part of us, a big part of that, and I like to speak from always a place of realness and
Yeah,
vulnerability, right?
absolutely.
For me, I had a point where I was really angry. I was really
Yeah,
hurt, right? And especially after some of my experiences, I was like, I can't. This is
yeah,
just doesn't make any sense.
not
Um,
fair.
not fair. And I think sometimes that is part of our healing. But like what you were saying in regards to um, action, right? What is faith without deeds, right?
Exactly,
What
exactly.
is faith without deeds? And I think that's where when we talk about that interconnected, right? Like we were brought into this earth full of nourishment, full of resources. We were brought here with people that we can build community with. We
Yeah,
were bestowed with the resources, with the people to create a really beautiful world.
that's
we
true.
we were given that, but now we have to go back and figure out why we went with that survival idea of having to step on others and make others a property to be able to thrive, right? Like,
Yeah,
why did we go with that, and how do we begin to undo that so that we can truly begin to build that world where we believe that we are connected, we believe that we are interconnected to each other, that our freedoms are interconnected, and that we can thrive together, right?
yeah,
Because I believe that with all my heart. But that is hard work.
yeah.
um
and,
and
and and we all have to commit from the place that we are in. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I know you're very involved in this, but I think that everybody that is watching, you can commit to change. In one, to look within, look at your heart, see in which areas you have even been a slave yourself, in different areas and different addictions, different situations where you have been a slave yourself. That's where you can find the empathy from. If you don't understand what's going on, that's where you can find the empathy. And also, just like Laura was saying, we need to be self-responsible. And I just love a verse in the Bible that says you got to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And we say it out of, like, from the outside, but the question is, are we truly living it? Are we truly loving ourselves enough? Because when you love yourself, you love your creator. And if you love your creator, then you love his creation. So it all begins with loving yourself. And that's my last question for you, Laura. When empathy is a lifestyle, which I can truly say because I have seen it in your life, you live empathy. You become more sensible to the pain of others. You are able to see people's pains. How does self-care looks for you? because we tend to forget about us. We tend to love our neighbor and sometimes forget about ourselves. How does self-care looks for you?
That is also a question that I am probably going to be dealing with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I am learning to be okay with them, but to create the systems that will allow me to take care of myself. So for me, I am, committed to that empathy that allows me to see I'm allowing that to become a part of who I am,
Mm.
and giving myself the permission to feel the pain when I need to feel it,
Yeah.
and to put up a boundary when I need to put it. But then when it comes to, for example, with my work, I had a really difficult week this week because I heard some really terrible things, right? I heard some cases that like broke my heart 20 times over, and then another one which did that again. And so, you know, um, I had to begin putting the practices of self-care, right? Of asking for a mental health day for my work, and realizing that, like we were talking about, the principles of I'm not the savior of the planet. We know who that is, right? So I don't need to be the savior of the planet. So if I'm not there one day, it's I'm not putting myself in the responsibility of ending every issue on the planet today, right?
Yeah.
I know what my part is in an ecosystem, and I'm realizing that I need to create. When we're talking, I'm telling you that interconnectedness helps us. I think for very long we've lived in a place where we think that it's like a one-man show, and like there's a one person who's gonna fix it all, and there's the one
Yeah.
leader. I truly believe that we could move to a place that is more sustainable, that it's less heavy when we create co-leadership, right? And that's something that I learned very young, right? When you were co-leaders, you have to have somebody beside you. How
Yeah.
are you going to lead by yourself, right? And that is so key, to create the sustainable people behind you to support you, to be next to you. Carrying leadership and power is hard, right? Carrying people's weight and empathy is hard. And so that's where you got to find the people to stand next to you.
Yeah.
So that's one of the practices. And then of course we have the list of self-soothing, self-care, which we can have a whole list, journaling, prayer, all the things that we can do. And then also another thing is community care, right? Like
Yes.
people at us, we have our healing circles, right? A space where you can find that community.
I love that. Yeah.
And when you can find, sometimes again about the idea that we can't save just everyone and ourselves. We need people in our lives. We
Yeah.
are relational beings. We need people. And so knowing that we need people, and of course taking time to do self-care, but understanding that that picture is not complete until we have the communal care as well. And then finally, building, I think for me, part of my healing, true healing, for me to be able to go to sleep at night, because there's so much pain in the world and I feel it in my soul. For me to be able to sleep at night, I need to be part of structural healing, right? So I have my self-care,
Yeah.
my communal care, and my structural care, which is the one where I'm building a world where more people, where I want to believe that a day every single person on the planet could eat. I believe that, right?
Yeah.
I believe that that is possible, but I have to fight for that. That is the structural care that I'm working so that everybody could have. And so I think once we bring all of those together and you realize that it's not all on you, it becomes a little easier.
Yeah.
Not easy still. It's still hard, but
Yeah.
I think it gets us closer to being able to live um, in a way that feels joyful and free.
So good. That's so good. And we just want to encourage all of you to be able to find which ways work for you. The ways that I decompress are very different or might look very different from yours. But one of the things that has helped me so much is to be able to identify, when are the days that I know I need to say no. There is things that I need to learn to say no to, and things that I can say yes. But the things that I say yes, when I say yes to something, I'm immediately saying no to so many things. But at the same time, when I say no to things, I'm immediately saying yes to rest, yes to saying no, not today, yes to saying I'm not willing to compromise my peace. I'm not willing to compromise the healing that I have been able to obtain just for an easy yes. So I think that we just gotta commit to be able to take care of ourselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to take care of others. And there is so many people that are willing to go and help out, but they're helping out of their anger. They're helping out of their own pain. They're helping out of I want to be seen, and finally there is a way that I can be seen. And I think that we got to check our hearts, and be able to, just like you were saying, in the midst of the journey of us healing ourselves, be able to go and give our hands to someone else, and for all of us to be able to heal together. Not everybody's on the same journey. I always say this: not everybody's on the same sidewalk, but we're all walking on the same street. And when you
Yeah.
see it that way, you are able to walk from your sidewalk, but look at the pain and see that you can truly make a difference, and do it starting with the people from your home.
Yes. I, you say it, and I love you so much.
So, and
And
I'm so thankful that we're able to have this conversation. You are, you are, I know that you don't like the hero word, but in my book, you are a hero. You're a shiro, because you have chosen to get uncomfortable. You have chosen to get dirty. You have chosen to not allow your pain, and not allow, it's just so easy for us to get caught up in our own pain, that it just becomes this root of bitterness that doesn't allow us to be a light for others. But you have been chosen. You chose to live an everyday a holiday. You chose to see, besides the pain, you chose to see the beauty of life, and the beauty of what this world has to offer. So
thank
thank you
you.
so much for inspiring us.
Thank you. And it is so great to be in space with you, Steph. I miss you so much.
Too. Thank you.
And yeah, and to everyone, thank you again, Steph, for like being able to have this conversation, and for encouraging folks to have this conversation, because it's so important. And I think the final thing with all of this, because it's hard, is to have grace with yourself, right?
Yeah.
To have grace with yourself, and to have grace with others, which is also a very hard part, because this journey, it's a long journey, and we got to hold each other, as I said, not punitively, but with love, with truth, with honesty, and with compassion. So
That's right.
take that forth.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
let's believe that everybody's going to be able to work in their empathy. You don't have to, it's not sympathy. It's not, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. Let me just put music so you can listen to music. It goes beyond. It goes, in within, and the changes that you can make, and the hand that you can give, and the words that you can give. So thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for
Thank
Poderosa, because
you.
Poderosa is
Oh,
making a difference. Can you talk to us really quick before we leave about
yes, of course.
Poderosa, and how can people join the movement?
Yes, of course. So, yeah, and I also wanted to, to kind of like the final part, about your part, right? When we talk about social change, right, and like social justice, everybody thinks that it's like you gotta go to the streets and get arrested, okay? Like, no, yo, like that is not the only way. Like some folks decide to do that because that's what they, that's their choice. But social justice is a whole like a system. We need healers in social justice. We need weavers. We need people that are connecting communities, right? So
We need
wherever,
peacemakers.
peacemakers, right? Like we gotta, like folks that are going from one place to another, there is a whole map of ecosystems and people that we need. And so what I would encourage you is to think honestly, and like you said, a step, look in your heart about from where you're standing, right? With true, like looking into your heart. What is it that you can do from where you stand, right? For when you stand in your consciousness and your commitment and what you can and cannot give, because you only know that, right? You, again, with the yes and the no, you know what you can truly give in this moment and what you just don't have capacity because maybe your own pain and your own healing journey. But from wherever you're standing, you know, think, what is one thing that I can do and one thing that I can contribute to this movement and to this movement for Black lives and for a world that we all want to live in, that has just peace. And so with Poderosa, right, one of the things that we do is that we do have our healing circles. The healing circles are mostly focused for folks that have family members in detention, or for folks that have experienced violence, mostly gender-based violence, meaning, you know, sexual violence and many of that sort. And so what we do is we create spaces for people to be able to find the tools for them to heal, and you know, that's what we're contributing. We've also been opening up the conversation and space for non-Black people of color, right? So people that are not necessarily like white, right? Like we might not be like white, but we're also not Black, to be able to have a conversation within ourselves about how we are part of the system and how we can do better every single day. So those are some conversations that we're bringing up as well. So because that is very important, and that is part of seeking justice as well. So, you know, we encourage you, if you want to plug in, you know, Poderosa is her power. Feel free to connect. And
how are you? What's your Instagram handle so they can follow you?
Is Poderosa is her power.
Awesome.
So if you just write the whole handle, you'll be able to see it. And then I'm also with the Florida Immigrant Coalition. It's also my movement home, you know, fighting for people of all immigrant statuses. So that's another place where you can connect. And, you know, and I'm going to also put it in there because of this moment. And it's so important, you know, follow the Black leadership in your church, in your community, listen to them, you know. You can talk to us, but really right now, go listen to them.
Give them a spotlight. Yeah,
give them the moment, because they have been paving for all of us, for our movements, for immigrant rights. Like, they have been paving for us, right? Like, I could go to school because, you know, of a lot of the struggle of Black organizers asking for all people of color to be able to go to school, right? So I'm very thankful, and I honor that legacy as well. And so in this moment, before you even look up Poderosa, find Black organizers, Movement for Black Lives, connect with them, and you will see how much you're gonna learn, and it's gonna make your life so much better. So
and I love that. Personally, before we leave, I think that the way that I've been able to understand this is because of proximity, because of my friends, you know, their stories, their journeys, you know, my African American friends, that I have been able to speak to them and speak, you know, get to know their stories, get to know their families, get to know what their parents think, and where they come from. And that proximity is what has brought empathy. And I think that if you don't know, you know, if you don't know how to feel, it's okay. It is okay to not know, but it's not okay for you not to educate yourself. So just go and get next to someone. Ask, you know, the first question could be, what's your story? Share with me your story. And what I can tell you is that God doesn't waste any tears. God doesn't waste anything from your story. Your story is worth telling. And it's just so good that we are able to have this space to be able to keep on sharing these stories and learning that we need healing, but learning also that we need to be more empathetic, first with ourselves, but also with others. And I have no doubt that Poderosa is her power, that Lauda, who leads this movement, is going to keep on making changes in the world. Thank you so much, Laura. I love you.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.